Hangout on Air is live. So now we're waiting to have someone confirm that they can actually see us. And I'll edit off this beginning bit where we
Where
sort of
are the
babble.
comments showing up?
Right there.
Over there. Okay.
Yeah. So
From YouTube.
Yep.
They're not doing comments on the Google Plus Hangout anymore. Or
It's
are
they're
they?
changing all of the tech
That's not
slowly over to YouTube.
happening either. Okay.
Yeah. You just made an amazing face, Mike.
Yeah, it's just the idea that Google is changing everything again.
They
It's
just can't stop it.
It's very upsetting.
well, they're trying to figure out how to get the most effective set of technologies, and so they're trying to be nimble. And the result is, we all have to constantly reinvent ourselves, so it keeps it challenging. So
Yeah.
chat people. I see that we have one viewer. So if someone out there in the audience can leave us a message saying that you can see us in the YouTube chat, we'd love to know if the stream is going out correctly. We've had some problems lately. There's 2 viewers left. Nope, there's back to 1.
Are we being viewed?
Well, that's the open question.
Mhm.
Let me hop in a different channel.
Usually.
I'm always worried that I shared a link that doesn't work.
Right.
So I see lots of tweets flying around.
So I
There,
didn't catch
okay.
that one, but somebody said coming through great.
Okay,
I don't know
so
who.
awesome.
It went by too quickly.
Okay.
There's so much to keep track of.
So much confusion. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of hope, since the 3 people that are there are pretty much staying put, that this is going out loud and clear, and I'm gonna hope that I'm not lying. And we're going to get started. Yep, I see people saying hi. So we have Suzanne Hunter from Lencia. Lencia, Kansas, it looks like. And then we have Guido Bibra has said that he's out there and he may even stay to watch Astronomy Cast after this. So I'm going to edit off this beginning part where I sort of prattle absent-mindedly at everyone while I wait for an audience. And I'm going to go ahead and start the show. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Learning Space. This is our 109th episode. So we've now been here for over 2 full years of weekly episodes, and that's a lot of episodes. And I'm glad that we actually have one of our dear friends of the show with us this week. This is April, and April is Global Astronomy Month. This is a celebration that started back in the International Year of Astronomy, which is where we really all started working together, trying to figure out how to communicate astronomy out to, well, the entire globe. And the man behind that first attempt at creating an international celebration is this week's guest, Mike from Astronomers Without Borders. That's at Mike AWB on Twitter. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, Mike.
Well, my name is Mike, and I'm also a survivor of International Year of Astronomy, where we all met. We're recovering from that still. So, well, back then, I was the co-chair of the 100 Hours of Astronomy Cornerstone Project, and we had a very intense 4 days of astronomy events, including the Global Star Party. And Astronomers Without Borders is something I had started before that, but afterwards we decided we couldn't let it go after all that work. So as part of Astronomers Without Borders programs, we started Global Astronomy Month, which gave us 30 full days to drive ourselves insane, and brought in so many more things. And that's what's going on now.
And this is a project that when we say Global Astronomy Month, it's not like the World Series of Baseball that's America and Canada. You actually have the whole globe involved. Can you give us a highlights reel of some of the places and things that are going on around the world this month?
Well, the Global Star Party takes place in most countries around the world, but there are other things. There are so many different ways that we celebrate astronomy and that people take part in it. So we do have Sunday, which is something we also started during IYA, which is on a Sunday and looks at the sun. We're not the most imaginative sometimes, and other observing events, but there are also online observing events like the upcoming Messier Marathon that Dr. Gianluca Masi hosts from Italy. He's the only one that has to stay up all night, grabbing as many as he can, and people can tune in from anywhere in the world. Everything we do is accessible to anyone in the world. So with something like the Global Star Party, we have local events everywhere. But some things are online instead, so anybody can tune in. And there's a lot that has to do with art. And the reason this came up is because astronomy is in art every place. It's in every culture, always has been. And this has really turned out to be an enormous thing, something that I get no credit for, because I thought, well, that's interesting. We'll see 1950s sci-fi rockets landing on the moon types of things. It is so much more than that. So, there's just quite a bit going on, and I just suggest everybody go to the program schedule to check it out, and we can give them links directly to GAM and so on. And I have some photos, of course, I can show you from previous GAMs that we can take a look at. But I always make the point too, when you say international, here in the U.S., if you work with Canada, you're international. But the companies and organizations don't necessarily have people in Nigeria or Kosovo or Paraguay and so on. And we do, because the basis of this whole thing is, when it comes to doing astronomy, there is no difference. I mean, something else you may do in the US may not be something that people can do in Nigeria, but the sky is there. And ironically, most places around the world have better skies than we do if they can get themselves out of their cities. So everybody is interested and everybody does it. And I've been on online programs that Gianluca did where people are chatting and they know each other by their screen names. And then somebody says, "Where is everybody from?" And you have no idea. It's like being at a star party. You're talking to people in the dark and you don't know what these people look like till morning. And people start popping in all kinds of countries, and it's amazing. So it is truly universal and global.
And this goes back to the phrase that I think best sums up and is on all of your web pages. It's Astronomers Without Borders, one people, one sky. And with astronomy, when we want to do surveys of astronomy around the world, when we want to do around the clock study of variable stars or supernovae or other special events, we have to work internationally as the sky sets over one telescope and rises over another. And with Astronomers Without Borders, you're taking that international collaboration that is at the heart of what we do professionally, and you're bringing it into the hearts of the people around the world. And what I love is you also have poetry that's coming out, and some of it is really kind of amazing. So you have the star parties, you have the Astro art. What are some of the other partner programs that you have going this year?
Well, we have some different things. I mean, you and I have talked about one thing that we are getting started right in the midst of your chaos of having the grant dropped in your lap, which is a good kind of chaos to have. And we may partner on that. This is something that you and I are both really excited about, and neither one of us, I will see, but we've started it, and it's going to happen. And we call it Faces of Astronomy, because, and when we get to the pictures, I'll show you what I mean. Everybody, these pictures are like the same thing. It's like you take the cutouts of the people and you put in a person with a different face, a different color skin, different clothes, or maybe change the background, and it's the same picture. I mean, I've got pictures from around the world where it looks like the same telescope. It's just a line of different looking people behind it.
So for some reason, we're getting, if you go to our live page, it says the stream is offline, but it also says Learning Space is streaming now. So I'm deeply confused.
Where does it say it's streaming?
So Learning Space is streaming now. Okay, so there's us on a different link. So I hope everyone has clicked through to the link that's actually working. Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. There is a working link, and so apparently there's
window.
You have to click on a link inside of a link that says that the link isn't working. So please click on the link inside of the "it's not working" link. We don't understand. YouTube is in the process. So I'm going to take a public service announcement break in the middle of this episode to say Google's in the process of changing how live events take place. They're hopefully revealing a bunch of new features. The single computer interface that they have for YouTube Live actually has some great embed features that they're going to allow. But for those of us that are working multi-computer, doing interviews across the internet using the Google Hangouts on Air technology, things are a little squirrely at the moment. So we appreciate everyone bearing with us as we go through the transition. Now, one of the awesome good things that is coming out of this is if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and you have the YouTube app on your phone and you're logged in on your phone, you will get notifications when we go live, when we schedule new shows, when we post new videos. So please go ahead, subscribe to us on YouTube, and it will pop you up notifications for when we're doing things like this. This is for those of you who are joining us late through this slightly technologically confused episode. This is Learning Space. I'm Dr. Pamela Gay. This is my co-host, Georgia Bracey. We're coming to you from the campus of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville this week. And we are joined by Mike, at Mike AWB on Twitter, Mike from Astronomers Without Borders, who is talking to us about Global Astronomy Month.
And I'm sorry I can't get my lower third up so people can see my name, but
that's another one of the technologies we're having trouble with. But
one of those nights.
You're not having technological problems with Astronomers Without Borders, and you were telling us about your new Faces of Astronomy project.
Faces of Astronomy. So this is something where we're just asking everybody who is a member of Astronomers Without Borders, who is somebody who takes part. Membership is free. We can't have everybody in the world if we charge, because most wouldn't be able to do it. But if you want to participate at all, we have a link on our site that I don't have handy to give you. And we're just asking people to show a picture of themselves and a little story. Why I love astronomy, what I do in astronomy. That's about it. And if you're an amateur astronomer or you love something about astronomy, you're an astro poet, you're an astro artist, you're an astronomy teacher, or you just like to hang out under the stars and gaze at them and wonder whether or not we're really a speck of dust on a giant's hand or something like that, then just share that with us. And we want to show, this is just a demonstration of how universal this is, and how much, when you look on that kind of a scale, we've got the same interests. We're the same people. You mentioned, Pamela, how in professional astronomy, sometimes we have to work with telescope networks around the world because sometimes you're looking in the wrong direction. And the same thing is true here. And one of the things I'm involved with, too, has to do with the overview effect with astronauts, the Overview Institute, and what the view that they get from space, where they begin to see not just that they don't see borders, but they see Earth in space, just hanging there with stars around, and it's a planet. So this is a little bit, to me, I've called it, and they've agreed, this is the overview effect for the rest of us, because it's essentially like, hey, I don't see Jupiter. I'm looking out the front door. I don't see Jupiter now. And somebody at the back door says, I see it over here. Well, that's what's happening. I mean, we're on the same planet. We're in the same room, whatever you want to call it. I call it Spaceship Earth because I like Buckminster Fuller. And we just happen to be looking out different windows in that spaceship, and we're looking in different directions. But it rotates. We come around to exactly the same things.
Are there any of these activities, Mike, that you would recommend for teachers and students? That might be kind of or any that you've heard, teachers say they particularly like from over the years of doing this?
Well, there are educational things that we do. Now, there are others that do education in a much bigger way. And so we leave it mostly to them, like Astronomical Society of the Pacific. And I think CosmoQuest does some things like this as well, as I recall. So we leave it to the experts to do those things. But we have some things. One is closed right now. It's an international asteroid search campaign where schools around the world, in many different countries, are using photographic images taken from survey telescopes and discovering asteroids. And this is actually citizen science. They're actually finding these things, but they become the discoverers and get their names on them. As far as what else is happening in GAM right now, to tell you the truth, I have to go take a look. But there are educational things. There are educational aspects to many of the things that are going on. I guess, well, seems fewer things right now, but they're, really ASP, I think, is the leader in that sort of stuff. Oh, one thing we do have, well, Faces of Astronomy should be educational. Once we get that going, there is another part of Global Astronomy Month that we do, which is the GAM blog, Global Astronomy Month blog. And every day we have a different blogger for 30 days. Some of them are very important people, like you guys, who I don't think we collared this year. And some of them, oh, yeah, oh, okay, good.
You did.
Well, you're too obvious. Somebody's going to get you. And others are just people who are writing from wherever they happen to me about what they do there. And it's really fascinating. And, it's a geography lesson in itself. Mm-hmm. But as far as formal education, we don't have too much of that, really. Depend on partners for that.
I'm going to go ahead and share your website so that people can get a sense of what they're looking for. So this is the ever so awesome URL. I love it when they're actually like, the URL isn't some weird thing. Yours is actually astronomerswithoutborders.org. Totally written out, spelled the way you would expect it. And here's your Global Astronomy Month for 2016. You can see that they have a map of some of the projects. Oh, I'm not going to bother signing into your things, but it's going to make me be signed in. Anyways, if you signed in.
That should have just shown the map.
Well, now things and stuff.
Oh, that's put your event. Yeah, you go down to events and then world map of events there on the right side, and you'll get it there.
Okay.
That
so
was
event
actually
list,
no
map of events.
There we go.
So you can see that just what's already listed for just the first few are spread all over the world. So this is truly a global project. You can see that the menu of different things, there's observing programs, online, educational.
Go to the program schedule. You can check them all out there.
Okay. So Astro Poetry Contest is running all month.
That's of course, and that has a children's division, three different age ranges there. Two of them are college, are school age, and we have submissions. And this is the interesting thing. Astropoetry is like, Romania is a hotbed of astropoetry. You know, who knew that? And we get a lot of entries from Indonesia, I think, schools in Indonesia. So it shows some cultural differences, perhaps, but you know, it's really interesting.
Well, that would be a great one for teachers because they can encourage their students to write, and it's a great, they're always looking for ways to connect the different, the literature to the science to the math, going cross curricular that way. And that sounds like a perfect, actually, this whole program is a perfect way to do that because you
Right,
have
right.
everything. But here, yeah, write some poetry about the sky or about science, and then maybe illustrate it or do some, visual art. And you just
Yeah.
bring everything together. So that's a perfect one.
And also the children's art contest is running there. I was reminded of that when I saw that. And that's something we get entries from schools, of course, more than anything else.
And right now, because it's the beginning of the month, there aren't as many pictures because people submit pictures through social media all month long.
Hmm.
And there's the hashtag on Twitter, there's active groups on Facebook. Pretty much Astronomers Without Borders has done a really solid job at making sure you're located all the places that people go naturally through their day on the internet.
Well, that's the idea. And you know, I've got a lot of others. Should I bring up some pictures from
Yes,
last year?
please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. A screen share will work for me at least.
So while you're pulling up those
Go for it.
pictures, I'm going to say hello to Nancy Graziano, Guido
Yeah,
Bibro.
nice people.
I believe that's Richard Saunders, who's in there as the Skeptic Zone podcast. Michael Jobin, Susan Hunter or Suzanne Hunter, I'm not sure which. Out there in our audience saying hello and talking in the chat. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post them and use the question mark smiley icon at the beginning so that we can easily see it. While Mike's pulling together pictures, I'd also like to remind you that this Friday will be the weekly Space Hangout, where they are bringing on the team behind the mathematical discovery of Planet 9. So tune in to the weekly Space Hangout and catch that crew.
Very cool.
And then keep watching the weekly Space Hangout every Friday, because April 22nd, we're going to have Mike showing up on the weekly Space Hangout and showing us the other end of Astronomy Month.
Right.
But
Yeah.
for now, he's showing us photos.
Yeah, and please
So-
ask questions because then I don't have to think about what to say next. So, you know, this is Austria, very active in Global Astronomy Month, and Astronomers Without Borders in general. And this is in Linz, one of our very active ones there. But now let's see if this works. If I change what's in here,
Yep,
is that going to
you're
work?
good.
There we
can see
go.
it.
This is in Brazil. And you know, if I didn't tell you which country which one was in, you wouldn't really know. Brazil's very active. They printed out the whole banner there and put it on the telescope, which of course I love.
I was going to ask about that. It's an official telescope.
Yeah, it's like an official telescope. I mean, it's there. If anybody wants to use the logos or any of the things that we have, they can use them. But making them that big, well, I'm impressed. This is in. I should just show these and let people figure out where they are. But this is actually in Cyprus. And talk about educational. They're doing something there, and I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it is, but some educational thing. Okay, here's the Messier Marathon from last year. Gianluca Masi is on the screen, or was on the screen, and he's showing an image that he just took in Italy. And this is a program done by an organization called SPACE, which is an acronym, of course, in India. They are all over the country. They do a tremendous amount of educational stuff in the schools. This is a nursery school. And so they're having a special event based on that online observing.
So we have the question, what is the most remote location from which you have had GAM participation?
Yeah, I know the answer to that. If I can remember what it was, there's an island and it has like 7 permanent residents on it in the South Atlantic. I'm going to look that up, but I never heard of it. It's a rock, and there are researchers there. And we had an event registered, last year or the year before or something. I contacted him and said, "This is amazing." I didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks because it took a long time for the electrons to get there. But that was really, really remote. Something more normal but remote. There are areas in China. Geez, remote. I've never thought of it in that way. Certainly, a lot of places in Africa that are far from other things.
Centers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And it looks like you have Girl Scouts and Girl Guides here in Southeast Asia.
This is in India.
Mm-hmm.
This would be solar observing, maybe on Sunday. I don't know if it's just a school or if it's a Girl Scout thing or something like that. But then there are. I love this kid. He's the Google-eyed kid looking at it. Yeah, this is also in India, and they must be looking at a planet because you can see everybody looking at it naked eye there too. So probably looking at Jupiter or something. And now one of the places that I go a lot, have been to many times, and it's really something that started all of this, is Iran. And this is not a great picture, but it shows what lengths people can go to. This is an astronomy festival in Rasht, Iran, which is on the Caspian Sea in the north, on the north side of the mountains opposite from Tehran. And astronomy is huge there. And this is what I found when I first went there in 1999 for a total solar eclipse. And they do things in a big way. And the fact that when I came back from Iran and told people about astronomy in Iran, it was really an education about everything else. It's the most pro-American country I've been to. Astronomy is almost all women. It's all young people. That's true in most developing nations. The women outnumber the men in the colleges by 50%. There's just so many different things than what we get from the sound bites. And that was the reason. They love having American visitors most of all. The government may be a little bit less enthusiastic, but that's a very complicated thing there. But the people and people to people in so many countries that I've been to, that's a different story.
That's a fabulous story and a great picture into Iran.
This one is, let me see, that's Italy. And some town or city I've never heard of in Italy. And this young lady is wearing an Astronomers Without Borders t-shirt, actually, which might have been made herself because I don't remember her having a shirt like that. And she said that she and another young lady decided that they were going to do this. They had a planetarium, a mobile planetarium, and they'd heard about doing sidewalk astronomy, and they were going to take their telescopes out, and they said they didn't know if anyone would show up because nobody had ever done this in their city before. And of course, as soon as they brought them out, everybody was fascinated. And so this was something that was, we love to share astronomy with other people, and that's exciting, but this was a real education for these young ladies who had no idea if anybody would care like they do.
That's
and they
awesome.
found out they really did.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Now, these are Boy Scouts, and this was submitted as something going on during GAM last year. The thing that's of interest to me mostly, though, is this is Libya. And we do have pictures from Libya and Afghanistan. I actually know people there who've been here, and Iraq. Very troubled places where we only hear about the things that are going wrong. But as difficult as it is, I've heard so many different stories of people following their passion for astronomy, no matter what is going on. And sometimes it's not in spite of what's happening, it's because of what's happening. The stars are still there. The stars are like your friend that's not changing, always reliable. And so people find refuge in that way too. So here are the Boy Scouts in Libya. I don't know what part of the country this is, so it could be a perfectly you know, a quiet place. We also have some very active club in Syria.
When you see the kids in these pictures, Mike, it's really amazing. You talk about, and we know the trouble. We hear the bad things about the countries, like you say, but this makes you realize that no matter what you hear, there's this younger generation growing up in all of these places, and they
Yeah.
need to understand the stars, that they're up there, and they need to share this. And it's really sort of a powerful thing to see these pictures. And I don't know if do you have these pictures on the website
These are
somewhere,
actually,
or
I just pulled
because
these
they're
out of,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, I just pulled these out of a gallery. It's a souvenir album, some of the highlights from last year that people submitted. So on Facebook, there's Astronomers Without Borders. There's also Global Astronomy Month. One of the albums is GAM 2015 Souvenir Album. And these and many more are in there, but there are lots of others too from all over the place.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're
really
just
inspiring stuff.
yeah, and life goes on. And this is
Yeah, it
one
has
thing
to.
that
Yeah.
this is one thing that just doesn't change. And Boy Scouts are everywhere. I have a picture of myself posing with Boy Scouts in Algeria too.
And Nancy Graziano in our audience writes in an excellent comment. She says, when people come together to celebrate their common interests, national borders are erased. We need more sharing of commonality and common interest, not the exacerbation of our perceived differences.
Well, would you ask Nancy if she'd like to write copy for our website? Because
Yes.
that is
Yes.
exactly what it's about. And this happens in every field. In science, the scientists cooperate with each other, and musicians and foodies or anything else. But there is only one thing that really is completely universal. It's not we're biologists looking at different animals or something like that. But I mean, this is exactly the same for everybody. So, it's not it's unpolluted for the most part by politics and regional differences and so on. So this one is Astrocrafts, and there are other things. And I'm sorry, Georgia, I was really bad at remembering what programs there might be, but there are Astrocrafts that happen as part of Astro Arts.
Another perfect teacher one right there. Yeah.
Exactly, and this looks like a workshop going on.
Or parent or anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one, again, I should just challenge people to figure out where these are because you can't tell. But this happens to be New Zealand, and a very happy person here who has created something, which I actually really kind of like. I think that's pretty neat. I don't know what it's made out of, but and we have Kathleen Horner is just fantastic. She does a regular Astrocraft stuff where she makes some pretty neat stuff out of various things lying around the house or a few things here or there, and some of them are really really very nice. Well, they're all very nice, but I mean some of them are really striking.
Sure.
This one is this is also New Zealand. This is Sunday, and typical setup there, I guess. Could have been anywhere. I mentioned that young people make up most of astronomy. Here in the U.S., we're used to it sort of being old white guys like me, and it's a big question, a big problem, but that is not the case in most places. So this is a typical picture from the Philippines. There are some older people who take part and so on, but this is mostly a young people's game in most places. This was the Astronomical League of the Philippines kicking off Global Astronomy Month in the Philippines on the first day, April Fool's Day, April 1st, and setting up out on the street for everybody and taking a very spirited shot there. This is what I call a star party. That's a good one.
Yes.
Also the Philippines, and this is Sunday, I believe. I'm going to move that. Yeah. So, well, solar outreach. I don't know if it was on Sunday itself or what it was. And so some countries, you'd be surprised too. A telescope like that, I mean, that's something massive. And look at the equatorial mount there. You see how close to the equator they are.
Yeah.
But uh, you see some pretty good equipment in some places you might not expect it. Now, the Philippines has plenty of people who are well off, but some other places as well. Let's see what we have. Okay, so here, why did that flip over here? Is this staying? Okay, so this is an astronomical exhibition, educational program. The difference from the usual, you look at those things, those globes there, and think, what's going on? It looks like some sort of cheese puff that was left way too long behind the sofa. Well,
it's true.
Oh,
It does
dear.
look like that. It
yeah,
really
yeah,
does.
yeah, and then you wonder how we know.
And now I will never be able to unsee that.
Well, that looks to me like the sun in a prominence, but why is it done that way? Well, the people here are blind, and they are now. Is that still showing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so it looks like there's one guide down there, perhaps, who isn't, or a couple of them. But the person I know in the front there uses a cane. And so these are tactile materials. There are many things like this. Astronomy really is for everyone. And just because we consider astronomy to be an extremely visual thing, but there are other ways, and there are a lot of people, and I've seen this in many countries around the world where people have a passion for this. There's somebody I know in southern Iran, in India, it happens in Africa and South America. They're bringing astronomy to people who otherwise wouldn't have a chance to find out what is going on. And this is essentially another border that it crosses. So there's just because somebody can't see it doesn't mean they're not interested. They certainly are. So these are very much appreciated. There are planetarium programs produced for the blind with tactile dome that you can feel. And we did something last year. We're not doing it this year. We're trying to get it going as a regular program on a regular basis. And we're going to be looking for sponsors for this. Those online programs that Jean-Luc does, we're going to try and do things like that for the blind as well. Now, you can turn these pictures into something you can feel and understand, but it's not usually in real time. You can't be part of the discussion. So we did it last year as a pilot in a way that the pictures were prepared and could be printed on special printers in, for example, a classroom of blind students who could immediately feel and observe the pictures and ask questions and so on if they wanted to. So this is, yeah, just another way to make it accessible. This is a big thing. There are many different disabled ways that we're trying to get across. This is in Romania, presentation there. And that's, I'm going to stop sharing here because if I can figure out how to do it. Oh no, help me.
There's a button at the top of the window that we're talking in.
It says you are screen sharing. Maybe if I turn that off, that did it. Okay.
You got it.
So those are just a few highlights, but it's very difficult to pick just a few for me. There's so much.
It's your baby. They're all your children, and you love every child equally.
Yeah, there's just so much. There's so many amazing pictures. I'm just awed by these things all the time. When I see registration events come in and go, oh, look where that's happening. So, yeah, I can't really think of a place that we haven't had events take place.
So this is hopefully inspiration to all of you out there in the audience watching, that you can do what those girls in the Philippines did. You can do what those people in Iran did. You can start a local festival. You can host a local star party. You can get things started. One thing Georgia often spearheads for us is doing star parties down at the local custard stand. We often do that for Yuri's Night and International Observe the Moon Night. Don't be afraid to reach out into your community and bring the science to the people around you who may never just thought to look up. And then register your event with GAM. So go to
Yeah.
Astronomers Without Borders and become part of a truly global community.
It is.
Now, Mike, we're running out of time. So with you, we always run out of time far too quickly, no matter where we are in the world.
Yeah.
And you and I think, have taken astronomy to every continent except for Antarctica at this point. Where do you want to go next?
Well, the thing is, there are so many more ideas and so many more things to do. Like I mentioned, we're going to put together a proposal and try and find somebody to sponsor this thing, to bring blind people into the discussion, to be a part of everything. But there are so many more ideas, so many more things that could be done, and it all takes resources. Resources comes back to money, and we have a very big community. We haven't gotten really reached out to the community enough to help support what it is that we do, that everybody benefits from. Something we have to do, but you know what it's like. We're a small nonprofit that's always struggling, trying to do good things. So as far as what types of things, I mean, we have been to the moon and Mars actually, but that's one of the things that's happening. It'll happen on Saturday this time. Optics it's part of Astro Arts, but it uses moon bounce. They send images to the moon, and then they are reflected and picked up back here on Earth and reconstructed. Last year, we sent a piece of artwork by Alan Bean, and a photo of Charlie Duke's family that he had left on the moon. So we sent it there and brought it back. And so we go a little bit farther.
So this is a great question. It's coming from Richard Saunders. How many places have you been able to visit around the world for these events?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Usually, actually, next week I'll be in Brazil, and I've been there several times. I'm frequently invited back. And one of the pictures I just saw it got in there. I don't know why. A picture of me and some others at Sunday in this small town in Brazil with a couple telescopes, the big plaza in the middle of town. I'm not usually there for these particular events. There's a dream of mine is to start traveling on April 1st and go to events around the world during the next 30 days. So someday somebody will do that for me and I'll blog about it. But I've been to some out of the way places. I've been to Iraq a couple of times, and South America, a few different places.
And the next place that you and I are going to be together is Medellin.
Medellin, Colombia. Yes. Yeah, not someplace a few years ago that I thought I would be going, but there's a great international meeting there. And it's a colleague of ours who we're working on a program with is going to be there. This is there's just so much going on, I can't think of it all. The transit of Mercury coming up. By next week, we will have something up. We're working with him. It's similar to what we did in the Venus transit, where people will be taking pictures, in this case, of the Venus transit from around the world and submitting them. And being a part, Mercury transit, yes. The Mercury transit, and there will be calculations made based on the observations in different places around the world to figure out various things about the scale, size of the solar system, and even some things about the sun that you can get from that, similar to what they're doing with exoplanet transits these days.
So as we go to close out this episode, I would encourage everyone out there, go to Astronomers Without Borders, check out their website, and on April 9th, the online Messier Marathon is going to take place, streaming the sky from Italy to everyone around the world. On that exact same day, our colleague Nicole Gallucci, I believe, is going to be hosting the optics event for Astronomers Without Borders. This is where different images from around the world are going to be bounced by radio telescopes in Brazil and Italy off of the moon, and then observed from a radio dish in the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
here we're truly spanning two worlds.
And that one, I'll interject, is going to be artist images, and this will be happening in conjunction with a art event in the UK, in Bath. And so there's always a twist on it. And unfortunately, Messier Marathon was clouded out first try, so it's moved over to the 9th.
And then a month later, on May 9th, is that Mercury transit that we've all been talking about. And we will have more information before that happens on how you can tune in and be part of watching one world pass in front of one star, as seen by our world a little further out. This has been great, as always, having you, Mike. And I encourage everyone to follow at Mike AWB on Twitter, and the entire organization as at AWB_ORG on Twitter, and keep up to date with everything going on with #GAM Global Astronomy Month. This has been Learning Space. We are sponsored by you through Patreon. So thank you for your continued support that allows Georgia and I to do this as part of our day job. We're here bringing the science because you let us. So thank you, and check out things over at patreon.com/learningspace. And if you have a little more to give, please consider supporting AWB and everything they do, from getting telescopes to Tanzania, to helping support CAN satellite launches, to star parties that span our globe and celebrate that we're one people and one sky. Thank you, Mike. It's been great having you on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Mike. Yep.